All right, Shalom to the elect of Israel. All praises, honor, and glory to whom it rightfully belongs, which is Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. What I said was all praises, honor, and glory belongs to Yahweh, who is the Heavenly Father, whom the world ignorantly calls God, in the name of his Son, Yahweh Shai, who is the Messiah, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus, in the name of the Holy Spirit, which in Hebrew is Rakakwadash. All right. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, ever well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. So, as it's been circulating, and throughout the news, and everybody, or most people know, some people I'll say, all right, but America is reaching its 250th year, okay, of existence. All right, this country, as it is today, is reaching its 250th year in existence, right? And this is website says America250.org, right? It says countdown to America's 250th anniversary, which is 35 days and 4 hours from now, right? It says contribute, National Celebration, America's Block Party, America Gives, these different things. So let me read just a little bit. It says on July 4th, 2026, our nation will commemorate and celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The journey toward this, and if you know about the Declaration of Independence, that goes back to the founding fathers and all of that stuff. Around the time then in America, declared its independence, basically. It says the journey toward this historic milestone is an opportunity to pause and reflect on our nation's past, honor the contributions of all Americans, and look ahead toward the future we want to create for the next generation and beyond. And America has no future, all right? And when I say that, I mean exactly that, all right? Because the Bible describes America's conception and downfall, okay? It says America 250 or 250 is striving for 350 for 250. Our goal to engage all 350 million Americans by our nation's 250th anniversary. Join us in celebrating America's semi-quincentennial by sharing your story through our American Story or America's Invitation, inviting students to describe what America means to them as part of America's field trip, or helping make 2026 a record-setting year for volunteer service through America Gives. So they're basically in the spirit of celebrating America's 250th birthday, all right, so to speak. And honestly, we brothers in the faith already understand that this place is nothing good for the Hebrew Israelites, all right, the people of the Heavenly Father and His Son. This place is nothing good for them, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians, all right. These people always make some type of rebuttal, saying, well, look at how you live, you're free to do this, that, and the third. All right, and that's only because the Lord let up the the harshness a little bit, as opposed to being in chattel slavery. All right, the Lord let up the harshness on His people a little bit here, and we needed it so we could preach this truth. But overall, this place is not a good place for the so-called Black, Hispanics, Native Americans, the Israelites. And so going online, looking up different things, right? I just typed this in. Let me close this out. It says, I typed in, how long do empires normally last? It says, throughout history, the average lifespan of an empire is widely cited by historians and political theorists to be roughly 250 years. Now check that out. So basically what this is saying is the 250 year mark is, all right, as said by historians, is typically the lifespan, all right, of a ruling empire, okay, dominant, a dominant force, a dominant nation, right? 250 years. It says historical milestones like the British, Roman, and Persian empires frequently fall within this range. In America is Rome coming back, okay? It says often collapsing due to internal turmoil, all right, which is going on. All right, look at America. Just look on the news. All right, let me look up this word turmoil real quick. Turmoil. It says Confusion, a state of great disturbance, confusion, and uncertainty. Yeah, everyone's uncertain about the future and what it holds. Most of these people in America, they live in a moment. It says economic overextension and overstretched military commitments. All right, so being that I looked this up, right, I came across this website, and this came out like 5 years from now, 4 years from now, basically, right? But this is on the National News Desk. All right, however, all right, what it says in here is very interesting. It says the average empire survives for 250 years. Is America at death's door? And the answer to that is yes. Okay. As it says in Second Esdras, and I should actually get that. So I have this precept lined up here, but actually let me get that instead. Second Esdras 16 verse 1. It says, woe unto thee, Babylon in Asia, woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. And woe means death and destruction. All right, in Babylon, all right, we know here is talking about the modern day Babylon, which is America. All right, America is spiritually known as Babylon. Okay. Verse 2, it says, gird up yourselves with cloths of sack and hair. And you do that when, a sense of great sorrow. That was a custom in the ancient world when a great sorrow would happen. When you're feeling sorrowful. It says, bewail your children and be sorry. Why? For your destruction is at hand. So the destruction of America, all right, is at hand. All right, America is about to end. All right, yes, America, all right, the United States of America is about to be over. Let me go back here. All right, so it says here in this article, studies show that an empire, more than one study, it says, that's why it's plural, show that an empire survives on average a mere 250 years. Did you know that? To put that into context, the world's oldest person, which is not the world's oldest person, recently died at 124 years old. So she lived nearly half as long as most empires do. Most Americans are unaware of this small but crucial statistic. So most of these people who live in this country are unaware of this, statistic here. Okay? It says, and America is an empire, so it's really like a dominant reigning nation, okay, on the earth. And you got other world superpowers like Russia, etc. All right, but America has, other countries under it, under its authority and all of that, right? It says, it is past time for Americans to confront the painful reality that our time as a world, let me read the previous sentence. It says, most Americans are unaware of this small but crucial statistic, which may suggest much about our country's future. It is past time for Americans to confront the painful reality that our time as a world superpower may be limited, and it is time to explore how to slow down what, frankly, is an inevitability at some point. Yeah, meaning something that's unavoidable, because America is going to be destroyed. All right, the Lord is the one that made this country come to pass. There's prophecies. He set it up to be that way, right? And he set it up to fall. All right, completely. To the point of no return. And there's nothing you can do to slow it down. You see, as the scriptures say, we would have healed Babylon. Let me just get it. All right, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and get it. Pull it out. All right. Bear with me just 1 second here. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50. I think it's 51. Okay. It's a good chapter too. Jeremiah chapter 51. All right. And starting in verse 8. Actually, I'll read this in the NLT, a different translation. And it says, starting in verse 8, verse 8. But suddenly Babylon too has fallen. Weep for her, give her medicine, perhaps she can yet be healed. All right, remember, Babylon is talking about America here. Okay. Verse 9, we would have helped her if we could, but nothing can save her now. Let her go. Abandon her. Return now to your own land, for her punishment reaches to the heavens. It is so great it cannot be measured. So nothing can save America. Okay, all these people talking about things to possibly do to save this country. This country is doomed. Even Thomas Jefferson said he fears for his country. I fear for my country, quote. Right? This is the quote by him. Hold up. Thomas Jefferson. It says, I tremble for my country when I reflect that the Most High is just, or it says God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever, that considering numbers, nature, and natural means only, a revolution of the wheel of fortune and exchange of situation is among possible events, that it may become probable by supernatural interference. The Almighty has no attribute which can take side with us in such a contest. But basically, all right, the point where he said this, I tremble for my country when I reflect that the Most High is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever. All right, so the Lord, the Heavenly Father, his justice can't sleep forever. Okay, the Lord has slated this place to be destroyed, man. And that's Bible. All right, so and there's nothing they can do to stop it. Now, it says is an inevitability at some point that the United States global domination will not persist indefinitely. This may be difficult to grasp and accept, right? But it has never been true for any civilization in the past, and it will never be true for any society in the future. Okay, and the only thing is, the kingdom of heaven, which is the rulership of the Israelites, the throne of David, where Yahweh Shai is going to rule, and 144,000 elect Israelite men under him, that's going to last forever, all right, as seen in Daniel's vision. So let me go ahead and get some scriptures, because I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to, forget any scriptures I have lined up already. Actually, let me just do this instead, all right? Letter Bible. I'm going to go to now Daniel, the 2nd chapter, right? You look at, remember that dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, right? The Lord gave Daniel the understanding on it, right? So, Daniel chapter 2, starting in verse 31, it says, Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This is Daniel speaking to Nebuchadnezzar. It says, This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and clay. His feet part of iron and part of clay. So this image, right, this statue that Nebuchadnezzar saw was the different major kingdoms before the kingdom of heaven came, right? You started off with Babylon, then what? The Medo-Persian Empire, aka the Achaemenid Empire. You got the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, right? And then the feet, which are 10 toes, okay, represent the European Union, right? Which started out as 10 countries, right? But now are more, right? And we're living in a time of this European Union, which is linked with NATO, and all of that is headed by America. You see, so we're living in that time now. You see? Verse 34 says, Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands. Right? And the stone represents Yahweh Shai. It says, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay and brake them to pieces. Verse 35, Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold. See, and that's the thing. The stone, or Yahweh Shai, he came back, in a time that the feet were mentioned. You see? And the feet are the end of something. Right? So we're living in the kingdom or the empire, the rulership, to where Yahweh Shai is going to come back and set up his kingdom on heaven. It's like on earth. It says, Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them, and the stone that smote them became a great mountain, meaning a government, and filled the whole earth, meaning the rulership over the whole entire planet in righteousness. All right, that's the kingdom of heaven. See, and it says about this kingdom, verse 44, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So unlike America, right, the kingdom after it is never going to be destroyed, which is the rulership of the Israelites. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Okay? So the kingdom of heaven to come, right? That's that's what's going to last forever, and that's going to come after America is destroyed. So let me go ahead and get this, and I'm going to get the main precepts I wanted to get. So this is the book of Daniel chapter 7, starting in verse 7, because Daniel had a vision here, and he saw beasts, and then he ended up seeing on the fourth beast, a horn, okay, grow up, come out, etc. All right, and these different beasts represent empires that will fall and rise, major empires, right, that will fall and rise before the kingdom of heaven came. Daniel 7, starting in verse 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. This beast represented the ancient Roman Empire. It says, it devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, right? Meaning it was different from all the other previous kingdoms before it because of its form of government. It had a senate, all right, etc. It says, and it had 10 horns, which were these different Germanic tribes, right? Verse 8, it says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. Right? This little horn represents America. It says, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And this is all, it's like poetically speaking, it was a vision that the prophet Daniel had seen, right? But the Lord has given us the understanding of this. Okay, the three horns represent the 3 major, the 3 wars, basically 3, if not major wars, all right, that America had in the making of this nation, which was this American-French War, American-Spanish War, and American-British War, just to say it like that so you understand. It says, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. This horn represents America. See, but then it says this, verse 9, I beheld, so the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. And the thrones meaning the rulership, okay, of the heathen nations. Right? They're going to be cast down. Why? Because Yahweh Shai is going to come. That's why it said he had many crowns on his head. Because he's going to come back and take down the ruling governments, okay, on earth and set up his kingdom. It says, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Verse 10, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld them because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. This is America. I beheld even till the beast was slain. This is talking about America. And his body destroyed and given to the burning flame, because the way that America is going to be destroyed is by nuclear fire. All right, by the way of intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBM. Right? And in verse 12, as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had the rest of the heathen, they had their dominion taken away. They, and then because they had the dominion rulership taken away because they went into slavery. It says, yet they're going to go into captivity. It says, yet their lives were prolonged for a season of time, because unlike the Edomites, the rest of the heathen nations are going to be, able to live, and be tributaries to Israel. Okay, but the point is, America, all right, is going to be destroyed. Okay, and it was described that after America, what, the thrones were cast down, which represents the kingdom coming. And then it even says, verse 13 and 14, which is after this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Right, and the Son of Man is Yahweh Shai, and the clouds of heaven are so-called UFOs, right? And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. This is the kingdom of heaven coming, all right, which Yahweh Shai is going to bring, okay? And this is going to be the next ruling and governing empire, okay, on the earth forevermore after America is destroyed, all right? And that's just as simple as that. All right, so now let me go ahead. This is the book of Isaiah, the 13th chapter, because people don't understand that they think the Bible is just about a fairy tale or something. You're sadly mistaken, horribly mistaken, man. All right. So, you know, the Bible, the world goes according to the Bible prophecies. All right. So this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 13, starting in verse 17. It says, subtitle: Babylon will fall to the Medes. And Babylon, all right, being the Babylon is talking about here is America, and the Medes is talking about here is the Russians. Okay, so it says, behold, I talking about the Lord will stir up the Medes, the Russians, against them, against America, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not lighten it, because the Russians, Salakia, the Russians are biblically prophesied to destroy America. Okay, and when that time comes, right? Because right now you see the tensions, tightening and getting more tighter between America and Russia. All right, but it's going to get to a point where Russia is going to destroy America. Okay, along with a bunch of other nations around the world. And when that time comes, America won't be able to pay off Russia from destroying it. Verse 18, their bows also, which bows, this goes into arrows, right? Also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. Yeah, the Russians, when they shoot nuclear missiles on their place, they're not going to care that it's children over here. All right, they're going to be dead set on destroying it. All right, because this is the will of the Heavenly Father. Verse 19, in Babylon, America, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, his excellency, shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So Babylon, this great esteemed kingdom and nation and country, everybody loves America. Well, let me not say everybody, but there's a lot of people that esteem America. I mean, a couple years ago, some years ago, it used to be greatly and highly esteemed, like the best country on earth to come to, right? But so this country, Babylon, America, which in the Bible is known as Babylon the Great, all right, it says shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. And how did he overthrow Sodom and Gomorrah? If your grandmother or whatever didn't teach you, tell you the Bible story when you were young, all right, about Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, here's how ancient Sodom and Gomorrah went out. Then Yahweh rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahweh out of heaven. So fire and brimstone rained down on ancient Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? And in a similar fashion, America is going to go out the same way, which is by what? Intercontinental ballistic missiles. Verse 20, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. So after it's destroyed, no man is going to set foot over here. Nobody's going to live over here. Nobody's going to come over here. It says, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Right? You have these different Arabs setting up shop in America. It's over with. Neither shall their shepherds make their fold there. So after it's destroyed, they won't be coming over here to, set up any shop or do any business here. Verse 21, but wild beasts of the desert shall lie there. Yeah, that's coming. After America is destroyed and the fire and smoke clear, you're going to have different desert animals living in America. It says, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. Yeah, the different government buildings and mansions and houses and palaces and everything in America, right? Because all those things are going to be destroyed, but in the area and places that they were in, different desert animals are going to live here after it's destroyed. Verse 22, and the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces, because they're going to be in America after it's destroyed. In her time, whose time? America's time of what? Of destruction. A complete and utter destruction is near to come. And her days shall not be prolonged. So this 250 year, this could, mark, because we know we're in the end, but we know that we don't know exactly what time America is going to, go down, and be destroyed. We know we're in the end. We could tell by the different prophecies going on in the world, but the exact date that this place is going to be destroyed, we don't know. But we know that it's near. You see, in America, it doesn't have 10 years left. It's not going to keep going on. The time for this place is over with. All right, it's about to be destroyed. Now, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 17. All right. And verse 8. And then worse come to worse, I'll just pull up the note I have for it. Revelation 17 and 8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna just put a note up for this one. Salakia. Okay. I'll go right to Revelation 17 and come back to that, Lord willing. Because I have a note on here. I should have a note breaking it down. Revelation 17 and 8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not. Right? This is talking about America. It was, right? It says the beast that thou sawest was. It says because it was in the Apostle John's vision, and is not because America wasn't around yet. Right? It says, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Yeah, because the bottomless pit is not a literal pit somewhere in the earth, but it's representation of a land. Okay, and that land is Europe. And what's in Europe? Great Britain. And what happened with Great Britain? You had the whole thing with the founding fathers, all right, which led to America, the United States of America being established. America came out of the bottomless pit, which is Great Britain. It says, and go into perdition, right? Perdition, which you'll find out when I go back to the Blue Letter Bible, means destruction. America, it says, is go into perdition because America is slated to be destroyed. All right, from sea to shining sea. It says, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. When they behold, see the people, are going to get the people that are not of the elect, not of those, not of the Israelites that are chosen to get delivered when Yahushua comes back. They're going to get caught up in the allure of America. It says, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. Okay. It says, and going to perdition. Perdition means destruction. America is destined to be entirely destroyed by nuclear fire. All right. Let me go back online now. All right, because I wanted to get that. Right, verse 9, it says, and here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, which means 7 governments, on which the woman sitteth. The woman here is America. Because reading up earlier in this chapter, the Apostle John saw a whore, a woman, all right, really a so-called white woman, right? And she represented America, okay? It says, and the 7 mountains or 7 governments or empires, kingdoms that the so-called white man, all right, Esau, all right, the Edomites ruled out of, right? Verse 10, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, right? Because the 7 heads, they represent, once again, the kingdoms, the empires that the Edomites, the so-called white people, have ruled out of, which start with the Greeks, okay? I'm going to read the note I got on that, because I have this one down too, right? The angel explains that the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits, right? So let me go here. Verse 10 says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space, right? So the 5 that are fallen, it says, by the time the Apostle John saw this vision, all the other empires, all right, were in subjection to the ancient Roman Empire, right, which is Gracia or Gracie, which means Greece, Gallia or Gaul, which is France, Hispania, which is Spain, Germania Superior, which is Germany Major, and Germania Inferior, which is Germany Minor. All these were in subjection to ancient Rome by the time the Apostle John saw this. It says, and 1 is, because at the time the Apostle John had this vision, all right, the ancient Roman Empire was in power, all right, and the other is not yet come. And this was speaking of the British Empire, which had not yet come. That empire will come way later after the time the Apostle John had these visions. So the 7 heads are the Greeks, the French, the Spanish, Germany Major, Germany Minor, the Romans, and the British. Those are the 7 heads. Okay. Now, it says in the other, when he cometh, he must continue a short space. All right, because Great Britain, right? The British Empire says didn't hold that empire status and power once that they once did for long. Once America came and got set up, that ended the empire status for the British Empire, especially when the dollar got set up, right? So the Great Britain didn't hold that empire status for very long. So now let me go ahead and go back now, right? Revelation 17 and verse 11, it says, and the beast that was and is not, talking about America, even he is the 8th, right, and is of the 7, right? America comes from all of those 7 heads, all right, but it really comes out of that last one, all right, Great Britain. It says, and goeth into perdition. All right, perdition. Looking it up here, perdition is what? Apolia. And it says destroying, utter destruction. You know what utter destruction means? It means complete. All right, it says a vessel of perishing ruin, destruction. So America is going to be destroyed. That's the way the Lord set it up to be. All right. So it says, verse 12, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which represents the European Union, which used to be called the 10 common markets, or even the European Economic Community. It says, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast, which is NATO. Verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords, the King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. When Yahushua comes back, the European Union, all right, is going to, the EU, the beast, NATO, and the EU are going to try to fight it. Verse 15, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, which is America, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Yeah, because America is known as a great melting pot. You got all cultures and nations of people living here. Verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, all right, the EU, these shall hate the whore, right? America's going to do something to make these European Union countries hate it. And now look at the relationship America has with NATO and the EU. Look at the relationship it has. It's really talking about breaking away from the European Union. All right. Verse 17, it says, for the Most High, but it says, look what they're going to do. These shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Okay, meaning what? America is going to make these European Union nations and countries hate it so much to the point that they're going to shoot nuclear missiles on America. And we know if the EU does something, NATO joins in as well, right? Verse 17, for the Most High hath put in their hearts, meaning in their minds, to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. See? Verse 18, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And this is talking about America. Even, all right, it's not a literal city, all right, but it's talking about a nation. America is that top country that has that overarching influential and dominance over the countries and nations of the world. You see? So this place is going to be destroyed. Revelation 18, starting in verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great, see, Babylon the Great, which is America, is fallen, meaning destroyed, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Because after America is destroyed, it is going to become the habitation of all these different desert-like creatures. All right, as we read in Isaiah. Verse 3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. You see, all these different nations and countries of the world, they have taken on the influence, okay, and ways and philosophies and cultures of America. You can look at different countries in the world and see America's influence on it. For example, there's a McDonald's in China, in Israel, etc. The women of certain Arab women, all right, or around that region of the world in the Middle East don't want to wear hijabs. They want to dress like the American women. They want to, these different African women listening to songs that come out of America, bougie ass songs, etc. Why do you think these leaders of these different countries and nations wear suits now? The diplomatic leaders. Why do you think they try to wear suits now? That's an American thing. They don't wear the suits of their people. For example, Chinese, what are they doing in a tuxedo? You see? It says, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. All these different backdoor deals with America, where you'll have the president go sit down with another ruler in America, in another country, or another nation's ruler come sit down with the president and have these different deals and talks. All right. It says, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Right. The different countries and nations of the world have gotten rich off of selling to America. That's why you have different things like TikTok or Shein, TikTok shop is Shein and different things like that. You go into a store, it'll say it's made in another country. That's not even in America. And where do you think the profit of that goes to? It goes to these countries that makes them rich. See? Verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. And as Zechariah 14:12 tells you, the nuclear missiles that are coming here are a part of the plagues. So this is talking about Yahweh Shai coming back and delivering the elect out of this place. Okay, because as it said in the book of Micah, chapter 4 and verse 10, right? It says, be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, which is Jerusalem, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon, okay, which is America. And how do we get here? By way of cargo slave ships. It says, there thou shalt be delivered. There in America, Yahweh shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies, right? And Yahweh Shai is going to come back and deliver he's mainly going to deliver the elect out of the United States of America, but as well as from all over the world. Okay, but this is what it's talking about when it says come out of her, my people. The elect are literally going to come out of America upwards, okay, into what the world ignorantly calls UFOs. Those are the vehicles of their salvation. Okay, verse 5, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High hath remembered her iniquities. Yeah, everything, all the wickedness America has done, including slavery and the genocide, all right, of the Native Americans. Okay, all in the so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans are the Lord's people. All of that has been remembered by the Lord, even though these so-called white people, these Edomites tell us to forget about it. It's all been remembered by the Lord. You see? Verse 6, reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled to her double. See? And the people that run this place is the so-called white man. All right? And so when we get in our kingdom, we're going to reward them double as they rewarded us with slavery. Verse 7, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. People live deliciously in America. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, because America has all these husbands, so to speak, dealing with it. These different nations and things. It says, and shall see no sorrow, right? And that's the attitude that these Americans have. The American people have. They feel like nothing bad could ever happen to America. You describe a catastrophic event that could happen here, like, man, that could never happen. They feel they have the best Air Force. You see, this is America is talking about. Verse 8, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly, meaning completely, burned with fire, okay, by way of intercontinental ballistic missiles. And it says, for strong is the Lord Yahweh who judgeth her. So we see who's bringing the plagues, who's going to bring the pain to this place. Let me jump down. I'll just read here. Verse 9. It says, starting in verse 9 to verse 10, it says, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, meaning when America is destroyed, all right, the different nations and countries of the world that got rich off of trading and having commerce with America, says, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, right, standing afar off, because they're going to be in different countries, but by way of satellites and internet and things like that, all right, it's going to be televised. You think if a whole country is going to be completely obliterated, right, you think it's not going to be televised? All right, it says, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, talking about America, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And that's all it's going to take the Lord, is 1 hour to wipe this place completely off the map. 3,600 seconds. All right, when that day of the Lord comes. All right. You're going to have deliverance of the elect, and you're going to have the complete utter destruction of America. And there's going to be missiles hitting other parts of the world. But right now, we just talking about America. You see? This place is going, man. It's slated for destruction. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. For the vision, which is the prophecies, because when the prophets saw these different things, right? Because the Apostle John, he received these visions, right? Okay? It says it's yet for an appointed time. We'll see the vision about America being destroyed. That wasn't for the time he was living in then. All right, it's for the time we're living in now. See, when the prophets saw these different visions, it was, a lot of times it wasn't for the time they were living in. It was for our time now. See? But at the end it shall speak and not lie. See? Because it's speaking. We're living in it. All right? Though it tarry, wait for it. Though it might feel, because we know these prophecies, and that America's going to be destroyed. All right? But and then people in the world, even though they might know it, they be like, if they hear us and might say, well, you're saying this, but it's still going on. What's happening? Though it tarry, though it might seem like it's taking a bit long, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. So it's on its way. Well, just wait. The Lord's going to destroy this place, man. So I'm ending with this. 2 Ezra chapter 15 and verse 11. But I, talking about the Lord, will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. The Most High is going to send his only begotten Son, Yahushua, back, okay, to deliver, all right, the Israelites, the elect of Israel, out of this new Egypt, which is America. It says, and smite Egypt with plagues, and not only just in America, but from all over the world, all right? And smite Egypt with plagues as before, yeah, because just like ancient Egypt over there in Africa, okay, got hit with plagues, the Lord's going to hit this new Egypt, America, with different plagues, as before, okay? Different plagues he hit him with back then, he's going to hit him with this time. It could be in the same form or a different fashion, all right, but it's coming. It says, and will destroy all the land thereof, okay? See, and this is the last, so the Lord is going to completely wipe this place, America, off the face of the earth, you see, when that day comes, see, and this is the last standing empire and rulership that these so-called white people have, all right, and the rest of these heathen nations, all right, before they go into slavery under the Israelites, and then that kingdom of heaven comes. See, this is the last piece, all right. This is the last leg right here. This is it. Once this place goes down, the kingdom is going to come. Yahushua is going to come back, and he's going to set up his kingdom on earth, all right. It's going to be a righteous kingdom. So, hey, man, 250 years, brothers, we almost here, man. All right, we almost here. Okay, we looking for and hastening the day. All right, that Yahushua returns. I'm gonna just actually end it with that then. All right, because I was thinking about it. It hit my mind like probably 4 or 5 times already, even before I turned the camera on. 2 Peter 3 and verse 12. It says, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Yeah, the elements, everything, all what you see is made up of, okay? All right? Even here in America is going to be destroyed. And America is going to be destroyed, okay? By fire. It's going to melt. That's how hot it's going to be. See, so we look forward to Yahushua to return in this day to come, man. So, hey, with that, all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, every well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. Shalom to the elect.